Hello, and welcome to Glanbia's Dairy Focus. I would just like to draw your attention to a series of 3 upcoming farm walks that are part of the joint Teagasc Glanbia Future Farm programme, with the first event being on next Friday at Cahalmoran's farm in Kilkenny, the week after John Ryan's farm in Tipperary, and the following week the third event at Jack and Larry Carney's farm in Cork. Due to the current COVID measures, we would like you to pre-register your attendance to these events through the Teagasc events page, and in the following days you will get a reminder text with a link to that page to register for the event. In this episode, I catch up with our nutritionist Elaine Brady on the how and why of body condition scoring dairy cows in late lactation ahead of the dry period. We're now heading for late lactation, and the body condition score of the dairy cows is something we probably should focus on. But Elaine, why is it important to focus on body condition score in late lactation dairy cows?
So in late lactation, it's the easiest time to manipulate your body condition score compared to the dry period. So we want to be setting up the cow for the dry period and for calving. As over-conditioned cows and thin cows will cause problems then in early lactation and at calving. So your fatter cows will have a difficult calving and production diseases, or your thin cow will have a poor milk performance and reduced fertility. So you want to be able your cows to have a body condition score between 2.75 and 3. So this allows them to gain a body condition score of 0.25 during the dry period. So this ensures they're not going to be over-conditioned coming into calving.
So at calving you're looking for a condition of 3 to 3.25.
Yes.
And if the cows are not there right now, if they're not on track to be in that 2.75 to 3 category, what can we do to get them there?
So if your cows are over-conditioned, so above the 3.25, you want to be either reducing your concentrates or taking them off concentrates completely to try and reduce the body condition score before the dry period. Then if you have thinner cows, up the concentrates for those to increase their energy intake and maybe also dry them off a bit earlier to allow them to recuperate and replenish their reserves before calving.
Okay, very good. So these cows are about a month and a half away from being dried off, so it's the ideal time to actually get a body condition score on them. So I suppose we better get to it.
Okay. Yeah, so body condition scoring is both a visual and a hands-on assessment of the cow. So usually I start at the back of the cow looking around the tail head. So here we can see the tail head is fairly filled up, the pin bones and the ligaments are not visible anymore. And then feeling in the tail head, there's a lot of a big fat layer here. Then moving along here to the hook bone, you can just about feel the angular shape of it, but it's also smooth. So moving on to the short ribs, it's smooth, you can just about see the short ribs. Feeling along the projections, they are still easily felt. Then moving along the spine, it's very smooth, you can't feel any, can't see or feel projections of the spine. So looking then at the longer ribs, visually you can still see, just about see the last 2 ribs, and then feeling along you can still feel the ribs with a bit of pressure. So overall, taking all the points in consideration, I would body condition score her of 3.25. So looking at this cow here in the tail head, you can see there's less of a fat layer compared to the previous cow. So moving on to the hook head, here it's a lot more angular. You can feel it, there's a slight layer of fat. Moving on to short ribs, there's a good layer of fat on the short ribs. You can feel the projections of the short ribs as well, but a good layer of fat. So overall, this cow has a body score of 3. So again, looking at the tail head area, here you can see the ligaments are fairly visible, and the tail head is hollow. When you grab, there's very little to grab onto. Moving on to the short ribs, there's still a good layer of fat along the ribs. You can feel them with pressure. And then the spine here, you can see There's no visible projections, it's smooth. But then looking at the longer ribs, you can see them all the way up to the spine. So taking all the errors in consideration, this cow is body condition score of 2.5.
I hope you enjoyed that. And just as a reminder, keep an eye out for the text message on the future farm walks that are happening in the next 3 weeks. If you want any more information on the topic covered in this episode, please talk to your local Glanbia representative or log on to glanbiaconnect.com.